Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I enjoy this topic because this is one of the biggest I Told You show in James Show history. When all the trans stuff started in earnest, I think when we stopped using the term transvestite and it became something else, transsexual, transgender, and all the flags and stuff, whenever it morphed into something different, and people stopped saying that's a dude in women's clothing, and they were saying, no, that's a woman. Well, no, that's a guy in women's clothing. Well, you can't tell what they identify as. Well, okay, so we're just ignoring. Whenever we stopped ignoring biology, I saw this, and you probably did too. You just didn't have a radio show, and I have just records and records of me over the years saying, oh, we're going to win this argument. There's no way the other side can win. The idea that gender is just some sort of social construct, and you can just by your whim choose and change genders. That's not an argument they can win in the long term. Keep going for that one. Keep saying that. You can only lose, because I saw this coming. I was having so much fun because this was just starting to happen when the 2020 Olympics were going down, and then they had to delay it to 2021, and they had like that one weightlifter dude from New Zealand that was beating the chicks that got disqualified or whatnot, and I was just thinking, they need to fix this now, or in 4 more years, or I guess 3 more years from the last Olympics, that this is going to get even worse. And I can still say this again, but I'm just saying it with like, if I sound a little smarmy and a little smug, it's just because I'm so damn right. If we don't fix this now, 2028 is just going to be the bar scene from Star Wars. It's going to be mutants everywhere. And what we saw with the boxing is going to be repeated in most of the women's events. You notice there's no trans issues on the men's side of the Olympics. We're not having a problem with any women who think they're men competing as men and beating the crap out of dudes. It's just a one-way problem. That's part of what makes it so enjoyable. And not that I enjoy this woman getting beat. If you don't know the story, there was an Italian boxer who was going up against a boxer from Algeria. And the dude from Algeria, it looks like a dude, has muscles bigger than mine, just kind of looks like when you took off the G.I. Joe armor. Or I'm sorry, the He-Man armor from your toys in the 80s. You know how He-Man's just jacked. Look like that. Look like one of them MMA fighters. But he was allowed to box against the women. 46 seconds into the match, it's called. She took 2 punches to the face. I think one of them broke her nose. I mean, that's reporting, but when they report it the day it happens, it's not like she had time to go to a doctor and get an MRI. They just said it's reported her nose is broken. But she took 2 punches and said, that's it. I've never been hit hard like that. As hard as that. And she threw in the towel. And it was awful to see. It will break your heart. If you haven't already seen it on social media and you see this video, I'm sorry, it'll kind of ruin your day for a few minutes, because you see her just break out in tears. Because she's been training her whole life for this. Her dad recently died, and she had dedicated her performance to him, and she was going to do everything she could to get the gold. And she worked hard. She put in all the hours. She put in all the work. She qualified and made it to the top of the Italian team. And then at the Olympics, she has to go fight a dude. That is not fair. That should not be in the cards. So any disinterested third-party observer watching, you'd have to feel sorry for her. She throws in the towel after 46 seconds. They confer with the judges, and then they bring her out in the ring. And the ref has to lift the arm of the guy from Algeria. He's the winner by forfeit. And she immediately falls to her knees and just starts bawling, crying. And crying is not anything that's unnatural at the Olympics. People cry when they win. People cry when they lose. Men cry. Women cry. It's not that unusual to see it. But these are not tears of joy or tears of, oh, I almost got there. These were tears of, I have just gotten robbed. And she was saying that. She was saying, this is not just. This is not justice. This is not just. And she was left there crying in a heap in the middle of the boxing ring, and they were supposed to leave. And the trans dude goes to his corner and sees the Italian lady kind of upset, and so goes out there and tries to comfort her and goes to pat her on the back, and she feels that first pat, and she looks up and sees it's him, and she shirks away from him. She turns the other way and walks away, and he tries to console her again, and she turns her back on him and walks away. South Park predicted this. What was this, 3-4 years ago? Did you ever see that episode of South Park where they were having like the strong woman competition, and PC Principal's girlfriend, her name's Strong Woman, is the reigning champion of the Strong Woman competition. But this year there's a new cartoon character that looks just like Macho Man Randy Savage. And he decided that he's going to transition 2 weeks ago and is now going to compete against the women in the strong woman competition. And it doesn't work out so well for PC Principal's girlfriend, Strong Woman.
Joining me now is the current champion of the Strong Woman competition, Strong Woman. Miss Woman, do you feel ready?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready, David. There are just so many amazing women athletes out here today. It makes me so proud.
Now, this is the first year that a trans woman is in the competition. How do you feel about that?
Amazing. I feel honored to be a part of history. I have a lot of incredible trans friends who are athletes, and so we're all inspired this woman's competing.
And have you actually ever met Heather Swanson?
No, I've never competed against her before, no.
She's not exactly your average trans athlete.
Well, what is an average trans athlete? Honestly, I find that kind of bigoted, David.
Okay. Heather Swanson is actually joining us now. Miss Swanson, how does it feel to be competing today?
I can't tell you how free I feel now that I've started identifying as a woman. Now that I can compete as female, I'm ready to smash the other girls.
And is it correct you just started identifying as female 2 weeks ago?
I'm not here to talk about my transition. I'm here to kick some. Let me tell you something, Dingleberry.
David Perry.
I'm gonna roll up the other women here, and I'm gonna smoke them. I am the strongest woman this state has ever seen.
That's what you just saw. That was just the Olympics. It's no longer a joke. It's not even parody. It's like a pre-documentary. That's amazing. Well done, South Park. Any comments on my new favorite sport of women's boxing? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, remember when The James Show isn't on, you can still be a part of the show by following us on social media. Follow WBAP or me, James Parker. I am contractually required to put up stuff on social media, so it will be worth your while because I got to get paid around here. So yeah, go check that out. WBAP or James Show or James Parker on all the regular social media where we've got stuff on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and all that good stuff. My next guest, Ashley Smith Thomas, she's a political strategist. Welcome to the James Show. Leaning into politics here, when people see what happened at the Olympics with the transgender boxing issue going up, you know, Olympics shouldn't overlap with politics, but I think that kind of helps Team Red over Team Blue and just the general feel and tenor of America.
First, thank you for having me, and absolutely, I completely agree. It was appalling to watch what happened, and when you think about what the Olympics had done and the precedents that was set, I mean, we're seeing that battle right here in the United States, particularly with the Biden administration wanting to restructure and reframe Title IX. And when you look at what had happened, you know, Team Red, and so in this case, Republicans are really using this opportunity to push the need to protect women's sports and to protect young girls and women in locker rooms, and that there's no need for men to be in women's sports. Meanwhile, you have the Harris administration, the Biden administration, really looking at trying to embrace the trans community and making it acceptable for men to be, quote, equal as a woman by playing in women's sports. And so by watching what happened at the Olympics, it is causing such a stir on social media. And I really do believe that we're going to start seeing kind of a shift in that regard away from really pushing this policy into trying to protect Title IX. And I think Republicans are going to really drive that home here, especially as November is right around the corner.
Yeah, I bet you they're not going to bring it up themselves because this isn't an issue that helps them. But, you know, they do have issues that do help them. You know, the more they bring up abortion, the more they kind of bring women onto their side, or at least female voters who a lot of those single issue voters. But on a cultural issue like this, I mean, does your vote really even matter on whether or not we're going to see men beating up women in boxing?
You know, that's why I think looking at this, it's so important to make sure that we hold our elected officials accountable and doing their part in trying to protect Title IX. And that is something when you look at the Trump campaign, they're really pushing that, trying to save women's sports. And former President Trump had tweeted and posted online that under his administration, this would not be tolerated. Then you have where right now Kamala Harris is being very quiet about the issue and continuing to campaign, really embrace the Gen Z voters. And so what I think is interesting about this whole situation is that you look at the Trump campaign, they're really focusing on policy. You look at Kamala Harris's campaign, she's more focused on these social issues, but not addressing this issue of trying to protect girls and women's sports, which is really interesting because there had been such a strong feminist movement decades ago trying to protect women, trying to protect women's sports, giving equal opportunity. Now the very ones that were fighting for women then are now turning against women. And so a lot of this is just not making sense. And it just seems like a lot of these different progressive leaders are turning their back on women and trying to protect them. And so I think when it comes to the ballot in November, truly this is going to be an issue, especially when you look at Kamala Harris's campaign embracing the trans and LGBT community, and really what's the policy solution? How is she going to make sure that all women are treated equal, not men who think that they are women? So that's going to be on the forefront. But also what is really interesting is that you see these policy positions coming from the Trump campaign pertaining to the economy, to securing our border, national security issues, et cetera. But then you see and you look at Kamala Harris's campaign, she's gaining incredible amount of momentum among the young voters, particularly your Gen Zers. And so some polls, particularly from Newsweek, shows that she's at 60% in the lead, while Trump is at 40% in lead among Gen Z. And to Gen Z, the cultural issues that they are focused on is women's rights, in this case, abortion. They're also focused on the Israel-Hamas conflict, climate change, and then also the economy. But in this case, Kamala Harris doesn't really have a strong economic policy position compared to the Trump campaign. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Trump campaign can lure these young voters back into their camp, because when it looked like it was going to be Biden as on the Democratic ticket, Trump began to lead in the young voters. But then once Kamala came on the scene, now the table has turned.
Right, and that's the one place where Kamala, I keep saying that backwards because Trump says it backwards, Kamala has made big strides with one demographic, and that's younger voters. Because you said that with Gen Z voters, Kamala's up 60 to 40% over Trump. When it was still Biden, it was only 47-53. So it went from a 6-point lead to a 20-point lead. And the only question is will this stick? Will her support among Gen Z stay this high?
That is such a great question. I think, you look at what is going on right now with her campaign. I mean, personally, I just think that this has been in the works for months in advance, from the standpoint of how quickly all of a sudden her speeches are incredibly articulate. She's very poised behind the podium. Her social media and the social media ads that she's running is on point. And so it's been interesting to watch. They've been using social media very effectively in trying to target your Gen Z voters, especially using memes and really trying to get them empowered to get out the vote. And one thing that it just hurts the Republican Party in this sense that for decades, Republicans have struggled to use social media to really engage your millennials and Gen Z voters. And you look at President Obama back in 2008. I mean, he was innovative when he was using social media for the first time as a presidential candidate and brought such innovation into the campaign trail. And so now we started to see that morph over time through presidents, but Republicans still kind of struggle in that regard. So to Harris's favor, she's got Hollywood behind her. She's got all these celebrities, these musicians. She's got mainstream media. I mean, she's getting free advertisement up until the DNC convention, which is August 19th to the 22nd. So for Republicans and for the Trump campaign, they're going to have to really try to drive home and really bring in these Gen Z voters into their court. And what I would like to see more of is former President Trump using Vivek Ramaswamy, because he was so appealing to the younger generation, with him being Indian and then from the tech industry. He's very innovative, young, and vivacious, that I really hope that we start to see him being utilized more and trying to lure the young voters back into the Republican Party. But it's going to be very interesting because this whole race, that is leading up into November is going to be about abortion rights, and it's going to be about minorities. And
Right.
so then the question is going to be, what is Trump and his campaign going to do to address and make sure that women's rights are protected? Where's his stance on abortion rights? And then what is he going to do in regards to immigration?
All right, Ashley Thomas, freedomsfundusa.org is her website. Thanks for being on the James Show.
Thank you for having me.
freedomsfundusa.org. All right, coming up next, I have a little bit more on the Olympics and the issues going on why did the Olympics have to get political? Does everything have to get political? Yeah, I guess it does. We'll talk about it next on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So yeah, the Olympics is supposed to be this place where all nations and all peoples can come together and set aside our differences and our politics and just celebrate the human spirit and sport. But no, never before in the history of the Olympics, going back to ancient Athens, did we have dudes punching women in the face for sport. Well, now we do. You happy? You knew this is where it was going to go if someone didn't put a stop to it. And is this enough? Do people who support this, do they see this? Are they horrified? Or do they think, oh, wow, that woman sure does have big muscles. Oh, no, that's really a woman. You don't know what you're talking about. You can't even define a woman. So don't you be telling me what a woman is and isn't. People. So if you haven't seen the video, that I'm guessing would you drop your phone in the lake over the weekend? I must have seen this video 50 times over the last 24 hours. And yes, I said 50. I'm from the country. Leave me alone. On one hand, it's funny. On one hand, it just mimics the South Park episode where the macho man competes against women in a triathlon or whatever. And on the other hand, it's not funny because there's a woman who was just left in a lump in tears and shattered her dream. And it's not about this one woman from Italy. It's about every woman who has to do this now. It's about the, what was her name? Riley Gaines, the swimmer who lost to Will Thomas. What was he going by? Leah Thomas. It's about every other woman. There's another woman or a dude fighting with the women, I believe, and boxing as well on the other side. That's who you feel for. That's the victims here. Because, I mean, what message do you send to all the other female boxers out there, the aspiring female boxers? If this is how it's going to be, you might as well just throw in the towel. Just go back to school, give up your dreams, because this isn't happening. There is going to be no space for women's sports anymore. It's just going to be men's sports and trans sports is what it's going to come down to, at least in boxing. I mean, I'm sure there's some places where women can hold their own, like a shooting sport or maybe gymnastics or something to that effect. But boxing's over. It's an argument you can't lose, though. Your position is that, physically speaking, men are just inherently bigger, faster, and stronger, and so it's not fair to make women compete against them. And for women, if they want to pursue sport, they need to have their own delineated space to keep the men out, so they only have to compete against each other. That was assumed to be the fair way to approach it for all of human history until about 5 years ago. So I don't know what's better. Is it better that we're seeing this so we now have concrete evidence? Hey, you people who think that gender is a social construct, you've been proven wrong. I wish it didn't have to get this far. But that was the brilliance of the South Park episode. The woman that was getting beat by Randy Savage, her character's name is Strong Woman, and she's obviously this third, fourth wave feminist. Her boyfriend is PC Principal. Now, they're not married because nuclear families are something old, stupid, traditional, ridiculous people do. But PC Principal trying to console Strong Woman after she gets beat. And it just doesn't work out. Like you can hear the hamster in the wheel starting to turn in his little PC brain, but it just doesn't quite get there. Even though he watched a woman get beat by a man.
So, second place, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I guess she just started identifying as a woman a few weeks ago. Doesn't really seem fair.
Just don't. You'll upset the PC babies.
Yeah, they have some babies that are PC babies. And they cry anytime you say something that's not politically correct. But the lesson I lean on, sometimes you have to have some sort of philosophical or intellectual backstop. And for mine, in this one, it's Lil Boosie, the rapper Lil Boosie from the Baton Rouge area. His comments in 2022 on the NCAA swimming championships with the aforementioned Riley Gaines going up against Leah Thomas, he said something that I just pulled aside because I saw in my head, I'm going to be using this for years to come until all this nonsense stops. But the criticism he has for the swimming arena worked the exact same way for the boxing ring, because basically it's a man that's cheating is what it is. It's cheating.
I personally don't think that it's fair for
it's not
a trans
fair. In a minute,
for
5
a male
years, 10
for a
years.
male trans athlete to compete in women's sports, because
In
men are
women's
just
sports,
born.
bro.
Yeah,
Let
I don't
them
agree.
women have their glory, man.
Yeah,
We let that go down in 5-10 years. They're going to have kids raising their children to be big, strong, then turn into women and take over the sport and get $1 million contracts. Watch. Yeah, go get 7'5" and turn into a woman. Put him on the NCAA team and have him dunking like Shaq. Like, bro, get the out the pool, man. You cheating,
Yeah,
bro.
I mean-
Get your ass out the pool. It's not acceptable in my mind. I don't know who gonna agree with me, but I'm gonna tell them, get your ass out the pool, man. This girl been training her whole life. You got girls been training since they was 4 years old. It is cheating, bro. They got girls been training their whole life to be good at women's sports. At women's sports.
I would have said everything Lil Boosie said except for the N-word a couple times there. He's absolutely right. This is cheating. And how many women have to be destroyed? How many women's dreams, Olympic hopes, championship hopes, scholarships, educational dreams have to be destroyed before these people finally admit this little woke stuff about gender fluidity? All right, we were wrong about that. Sorry, because I predict in maybe 20 years, probably 30 years, that we'll look back on this little experiment in gender fluidity, just like we look back on lobotomies. There's people in the medical community says we've got this new thing that it'll fix people, and turns out it's just a horrifying mutilation of people that is regretted and universally condemned, ethically, morally, all the way across the board. That's where we will be in 30 years. The only question is, how many more women have to be destroyed before it's over? I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP. Now on FM at 93.3.